Hello and welcome. My name is Elyse. Do you ever have those days where you make a card and it just doesn't all go according to plan? That was me when I filmed this video. So I'm going to show you how to make a spotlight card, but also maybe how you can fix some of your small mistakes while you're making your card. So look at the supplies today. I'm going to be using this flyby stamp set by Trinity Stamps and also this A2 Foundations stencil set. This is the circles. So it comes with a bunch of inside circles and outer layers. And you can see there's a little etch for you to line up your card front. It's really, really genius so that you get it centered every single time. So I'm just lining that up with some Bristol Smooth cardstock because I'm going to do some ink blending. And once I have that lined up towards the edges, I'm just going to use some purple tape to tape down the back of my cardstock to the stencil. So I'm going to start by ink blending that center circle. And for this card, obviously, I am trying to make that center circle look like the moon. So I'm using a little bit of Scattered Straw Distress Oxide inks and just hitting the outside, just to kind of make it look like there's a little bit of a hazy glow to the moon. Just a little bit of ink, not a lot. And I really like the way that this moon turned out, actually. Now I'm going to move on to ink blending the sky. So you can see that I've taped down the circle on the inside with a little bit of purple tape just doubled over. And now I'm going to ink blend the sky. So around the moon, I want there to be a little bit of a purple haze. So I have got some shaded lilac oxides, and this is Dusty Concord. I'm just going ahead and doing some ink blending. Now you can see that basically takes up the entire card front, but I go back and forth and put in a lot of layers on this card to make the sky look as dynamic as I possibly can get it. Because this is a really simple card, and overall the making of this card start to finish took me about half an hour. So for me, that's not a very long time to make a card. And so because it's so simple, I am willing to put in some extra time and do some extra ink blending to make sure everything is perfect. So you can see I just go back and forth between the colors. So this is Blueprint Sketch. And then I'm going to come in with some chipped sapphire to get a little bit of a darker edge going. By the way, this portion of the blending is sped up just so that we wouldn't sit here for a long time, but all in all, the sky background ink blending took me about 8 minutes. So not too bad. I'm also blending on my little mini mat here. It kind of grips the paper so that I don't really have to hold it down. In the end, I'm really just holding down that little moon because I did not trust my tape to hold it down, and I wanted to make sure I didn't mess up my card. Going in and adding a little bit of black soot to add a little bit of darkness to the edges. And you can see I still kind of left that purple haze is still there. I'm going to go ahead and add some water from a distress sprayer to get a little bit of that oxidation effect. Now I went a little heavy-handed here with the water, and because I did not have that circle taped down really, really well, some of the water seeped through. So when I peel it up, you can kind of see on the edge there and on the sides just a little bit, there is some purple that is blending into the moon. Now I'm going to do some heat embossing today, and I want to make sure this panel is really, really dry. So I hit it with my heat gun. And then I'm also going to take some embossing powder and just test and make sure that this is dry before I do my stamping, because I don't want embossing powder to stick everywhere on my project. This is a great way to see if your panel is dry or not. So now that I know that it's dry, I'm just going to go ahead and set my embossing powder aside, get out my Misti, and do my stamping. So the way I've placed my witch and these little, and the bat on the bottom, I have covered up some of that bleeding that I got when I sprayed too much water. So that is the first way that I go ahead and fix a few mistakes in this video. Using an anti-static powder bag to make sure that I don't get any stray embossing powder, And I'm using Versafine Onyx Black ink because it is a pigment-based ink and my clear embossing powder is going to stick to it really, really nicely. These are very solid images. And while I got a good impression on the first go around for the bats, I knew that I needed that witch to be a little bit darker. So I go ahead and stamp her down a few additional times. Now, that last go around, I just took my microfiber cloth and just pressed down and make sure I got a really good impression. Lifted it up and it was exactly how I wanted it to be. I'm going to add that clear embossing powder now. This is from Hero Arts. Coating that witch and the bats so that they are nice and dark black, but also so that it gives a little bit of shine. Again, this is a really simple card, so if I can add something special, any kind of nice element, I will. So it was nice to add just a little bit of embossing. Now heating that up with my heat gun, and you can see that black really shine through. The embossing powder, the clear, melts really, really nicely, and I still get a nice crisp black image. Now you can see how shiny that is, and I can move on to stamping my sentiment. So I take some VersaMark because this time I want to do white embossing. So I stamp down that sentiment, which is really, really cute, just and simple there in the corner. And I take out my embossing powder, and I don't realize until I'm working on this that I got out the clear embossing powder again. Even though I had gotten out the white, I still pulled out the clear because it was on top because I had just used it. So I sprinkle on the embossing powder and then realize that it's not very dark. That's not very white. And of course, I've already taken my stamp out of my Misti, so I cannot stamp it in the same place again. Note to self for next time. Keep the stamp in the Misti for as long as possible. So here I am with the white. I meant to use the white. So what I'm going to do is just simply brush away this clear embossing powder really quickly with a dry paintbrush. Come back while the VersaMark is still wet and add the white. So if you ever mix this up, you can just brush away the powder as long as you move quickly and the VersaMark ink is still wet. You can use the correct embossing powder you were after. So that was me fixing yet another mistake. I've got that heat set, and it's about now that I have realized that that top bat is upside down. Yeah, if you watched me stamp that and were screaming at the screen, I know, you guys. But it was not egregious enough for me to start completely and totally over, because at this point, I'm done with my card. All I'm doing is putting some tape runner on to the back of that panel and adhering it to an A2 card front. So here is my card complete. Mistakes and all, I still think that this one turned out really, really cute, and it's just a really fun Halloween card. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure that you subscribe to see more inspiration and watch the other videos on the screen if you want to see more. And I will catch you in the next video. Thank you so much.